Every month, the Holy Father gives us two particular prayer intentions, one of them general and the other focused on the missions. This month, we're praying for missionaries, but a very specific group of them, women who have joined religious communities and consecrated themselves to the Lord through the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Pope Benedict has asked us specifically to pray that religious women in mission territories may be witnesses of the joy of the gospel and living signs of the love of Christ. These are two important elements of mission work or evangelization, joy and love. For it is these that will attract people to Christ and to his body, the church. Women bring a special charism or gift to this. They bring what Blessed John Paul II liked to call their feminine genius. In his 1988 apostolic letter on the dignity and vocation of women, Pope John Paul wrote, "Our time in particular awaits the manifestation of that genius which belongs to women and which can ensure sensitivity for human beings in every circumstance, because they are human and because the greatest of these is love." That same year, in his apostolic exhortation on the vocation and mission of the lay faithful in the church and the world, Pope John Paul wrote, "Women have the task of assuring the moral dimension of culture, the dimension, namely, of a culture worthy of the person. Certainly every human being is entrusted to each and every other human being, but in a special way the human being is entrusted to woman, precisely because the woman, in virtue of her special experience of motherhood, is seen to have a specific sensitivity towards the human person and all that constitutes the individual's true welfare." In a 1995 letter to women, Blessed John Paul explained why this is so, saying, "Perhaps more than men, women acknowledge the person because they see persons with their hearts." This is so important because we live in a world that tends to see human progress not in terms of what is ultimately good for people, but in terms of technology and the money and products that it can create. Thus, Pope John Paul went on to say in that 1995 letter, "Progress usually tends to be measured according to the criteria of science and technology. Much more important is the social and ethical dimension, which deals with human relations and spiritual values. In this area, which often develops in an inconspicuous way beginning with the daily relationships between people, especially within the family, society owes much to the genius of women." In other words, women, because of their uniqueness, their feminine genius, have a critical role to play in spreading the gospel of life in what has come to be known as a culture of death. Pope John Paul's 1995 encyclical, The Gospel of Life, recognized this in these words, quote, "The cultural change which we are calling for demands from everyone the courage to adopt a new lifestyle, consisting in making practical choices at the personal, family, social, and international level on the basis of a correct scale of values, the primacy of being over having, of the person over things. In transforming culture so that it supports life, women occupy a place in thought and action which is unique and decisive. It depends on them to promote a new feminism which rejects the temptation of imitating models of male domination in order to acknowledge and affirm the true genius of women." End quote. Clearly, consecrated women working in mission countries have a special role to play, one for which there is no substitute. We pray this month that by staying close to Jesus, like Mary Magdalene and so many women who followed him when he walked this earth, and like his own mother Mary, women religious may be witnesses of the joy and love that only Christ can give.